Andrew's in Chelsea to steer us back to this story, which has changed shape the more we've talked about it. I'm thinking now the real distraction is the U-turn. Actually, it's this 2 billion quid's worth of distraction from the fact that we've still got a 43 billion pound tax cuts package that is largely unfunded and entirely unexplained. But Andrew, what made you pick up the phone?
Morning, James. I'm a trader of government debt, specifically UK and European bonds. And I can tell you this morning, from a market point of view, interest rates have about 25 basis points less priced,
right,
which means it's not going to go up as much. From a bonds yield point of view, it hasn't really changed. And from a pounds point of view, it's pretty much unchanged. So what they announced today economically, I mean, it hasn't really moved that much, the markets.
It's the prediction of where we'll be next year on interest rates has come down from 6% to sort of 5.5%, 5 3/4. In layman's terms, that's what you're telling us.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest with you, 6% was a bit, it was a bit toppy. I don't think
punchy.
Anyone really thought it was going to go 6% interest rates, like in the financial markets anyway. So you could argue that we've just taken a bit of froth off.
Yes.
Now, in terms of credibility, from a financial market point of view, this government has completely lost every ounce of credibility it had by announcing unfunded tax cuts in the first place, and also now backtracking on tax cuts. So they've been hit with a double whammy almost in terms of a lack of credibility. The best thing they could have done today, instead of announcing the abolishment of the tax cut, would have been to announce that the OBR was going to release all the figures next week. I think he gets them next week.
He gets them on Friday. He gets the first draft on Friday.
So Monday morning next week,
yeah,
they should release immediately.
Now tell me why that's important. Remember, a lot of people listening, including this bloke talking to you now, me, don't know as much about this world as you do, and what is bread and butter for you is quite new for the rest of us. Why is that so important to you as a government bond trader, a government? Well, you've told us what you do. To the markets in general.
It all comes down to credibility. When you're relying on the financial markets, as the UK does,
yes,
and if you go back and listen to our former Bank of England governor, Carney,
yes,
he really sums it up 100% correctly. We rely on the goodness of strangers to finance our government debt. Completely reliant on foreign creditors. And when you're asking foreign creditors to prop up your debt when there's no plan, there's no figures, there's no meat on the bone, it's just completely unreasonable. And what's staggering...
You can't believe what you're seeing, can you? How long have you been doing the job?
I've been doing it 25 years, and it's absolutely staggering.
Yeah.
I
can hear that in your voice.
It just beggars belief that they would have announced this without any kind of input from the financial market. Anyone could have told you this would have happened. I predicted it was going to happen, and I profited handsomely from it. But anyone in the financial markets could have told you this would have happened.
Well, Danny did as well. Danny Blanchflower.
Your past caller was correct.
Yeah.
They don't listen to experts, and if they'd have listened, maybe they did, because the Chancellor's friends with hedge fund managers. I failed to understand how he didn't ask them what the reaction would have been. And they would have told him, surely, unless they lied, because they were talking their book.
You would think so.
They wanted the pound to collapse, It really is staggering.
And here we are. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel, actually, from where you're sitting? I mean, if they carry on this path, they've cut a £45 billion package of unfunded tax cuts to £43 billion. So that explains why the movements we've seen and that you've described this morning have been at best incremental. If they carry on this path... It's your job to know, isn't it? You bet on what happens next, don't you?
I tell you what would make me buy every government bond in sight is if the Chancellor resigned.
Yeah.
And if they do what they should have done in the first place and say, we're doing the energy package, we are going to freeze the company tax, but in terms of tax cuts, we will look at that in the future once market conditions allow and once inflation subsides. If they'd have done that in the first place, she would have been the darling of the conference.
So chuck the Chancellor out and slam the brakes on the tax cuts
until market conditions allow.
Until
I mean,
market conditions improve. She wouldn't have been the darling of the conference because she got elected on a promise of immediate tax cuts.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But that's politics.
Did she really? Yeah, I mean, that's another story. Did she really get elected on that? I mean,
I don't know. Actually, I don't know what she got elected on, mate. And I do this for a living.
Exactly.
I'm going to keep your number, and one day soon, possibly this week, depending on how busy you are, I'd really like to do a proper talk about what you do.
Yeah,
because
no problem.
all this talk about gilts and government bonds and debts, it is quite hard to follow. And you're very articulate. You've got a great clarity of expression, and I'd like to benefit from that without talking about the news of the day. I'd like to talk about the context, the background of what people like you do and why it is so powerful and important and has ramifications at every level of the economy. Can we do that at some point this week?
It'd be an absolute pleasure. No problem.
Thank you, Andrew. I genuinely look forward to that because I don't think anyone will be surprised to learn it will be as much for my benefit as it will be for the benefit of anybody else listening. But there you go. And again, quite open about the fact that he's obviously made a killing out of what has gone on, but is genuinely befuddled by the fact that it was so easy to do and so obvious to